Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday tip. I'm Tom Shellcross. With me as always, Mark Ainley. And with us again for the second time, Les O'Hara, back here to just drop knowledge on us about all the brickwork we have to deal with in Chicago. Les, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys. So cool to be back.
We will put the notes to the previous episode we'll put the link to the previous episode in the show notes. Just a ton of knowledge about what you should be looking for when buying a brick building. And now we're moving on in the timeline for owners who already own a brick building. What is some proactive maintenance they should be doing? What are some things they should be looking out for to ensure that beautiful brick building is still standing?
Well, let me put my roofing hat back on. And so I always have to advise my clients, if you do not have a roofing maintenance program going on right now, then you should find a great roofing company that is going to get on your roof twice a year, right after winter, right going into winter, to inspect the roof and all of the flashings that we talked about in the prior episode, all of the counter flashings, the caulking on the inside, so that the owner could have peace of mind knowing that no water is getting in from the roof. So the second thing that we talked about was, okay, what are some proper maintenance things that we need to make sure that a brick building owner has to do? One, he needs to make sure that top of the parapet is sealed and caulked properly. So that is another area. All of those joints, they have to be watertight. Second is going to be, believe it or not, all of the openings. So that's your window openings, your doors, anything that has a cutout of the brick, those areas where the window or the door or that HVAC unit is meeting the masonry, that joint needs to be properly caulked. So that's backer rod and caulk installed around those openings. Does that make sense so far?
Makes sense so far. Is it obvious to see to someone who is newer to this? Yes, you can see if it's caulked or not. Are there anything other obvious visuals for them, right? Like, because they might be sitting here nodding their head, but it's a little bit easier if you can give any like visuals or that they should be looking out for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the easy visual would be voids in any type of areas where the masonry meets any other object. So that needs to be looked at, and it's pretty obvious. The second is going to be any obvious joints that are missing, any opening or voids in the masonry, any cracking that's happening. We talked about lintels cracking, and also that same stair cracking happens below windowsills. Is there any cracking that's happening anywhere around in the masonry?
Is the gaps in the cracking, is it always going to be the reason of some sort of moisture or water, or is this still happen even though just based on over time?
It definitely happens just over time. So that's just the age of the mortar, the freeze-thaw cycles and just age. That's one. Two is if it was done improperly in the past, this is what we see many times, is that they've hired a company that hasn't used the right type of mortar. That's the mortar that goes in between the bricks. And if it's the wrong kind of mortar, that could, one, either prematurely deteriorate, or two, cause cracking of the bricks. And three, what you're going to see is the face of the brick. Sometimes we're seeing a lot of the face shell off. And so when that happens, that means that there's water behind the system that is trying to make its way out, and it's doing it to the expense of your bricks.
Looking at the actual mortar, sometimes you walk down the little gangway, you just see you see pieces that are down there. Is that something that should be that's alarming?
Yes, that's the red flag. When you start looking at your sidewalks or the stoops, and you're seeing little bits of masonry or little bits of brick, that's a for sure sign that, okay, deterioration is happening. We need to look in this a little bit further. One thought I wanted to definitely give your listeners that we're talking about maintenance. All of these new development guys, Tom, Mark, you know about them. They're just all these condos. They were thrown up. They're really fast. They're using CMU, the cinder blocks on the side of the buildings. They have the nice face brick in the front, but the sides are all this cinder block CMU. That is a product that you might look at it and not see cracking or missing mortar, but those elements absorb water over time, and those should be budgeted for every 5 to 7 years to have a water sealer applied to any of those exposed surfaces. And so if you don't do that, you start getting the water absorbed, and then you're starting to get all of those problems that we talked about: lintels rusting, water inside the building.
Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know there had to be maintenance on those. Oftentimes you see the chimney be a point of deterioration faster than the rest of it. Why is that?
If we're talking about that dreaded Chicago chimney that is on the roof there, when they were built, they didn't have liners, so that all of that combustible air and that moist air was going inside of the brick cavity. And so now it would cause all of this deterioration, causing it to show on the exterior. In addition to that, we don't usually cap them properly like a residential house chimney where you can prevent the rain. They're usually open at the very tops. Any kind of moisture is going to go in there. And so that moisture, again, deteriorates the masonry.
Wow.
So go ahead, guys.
You have a lot of, you always see the missing cap on there, and then you see building violations, and people are always annoyed by it. But I always say, like, so that it makes complete sense. Like, that's something for that $300 or $400 cap, you might have to pay someone to go put up there. It's well worth it, because it's going to cost you a lot more on rebuilding your chimney 4 years from now.
Another thing that's well worth it that we see in Chicago is that they built them so high. And so now you're spending this masonry maintenance dollars maintaining the brickwork of a very large chimney. But now with codes, you don't need them that high. So we bring them down sometimes right to 3 or 4 feet above roof level, or sometimes they're not even being used anymore because they've been converted out of the sides of the building for exhaust. So why continue to have the chimney if it's just going to continue to have points of entry for water? So we end up capping them and just eliminating them down to the roof level.
Oh man, I've done that. I did that one time, and I've never done it again. But I've paid it forward. It helped. So many times they gotta fix the chimney, or the chimney's not leaning, or you get a violation. And the chimney has been used for 50 years. Just take it down.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good tip right there.
Anything else, right? Someone owns a brick building. Let's say they look to do this maintenance. They're still having issues. They need to call an actual contractor out there. They're getting multiple bids. Can you maybe provide some guidance here for someone who hasn't gone through this process before, that's looking to hire someone like yourself?
Yeah, so we see it every day that we're not having the homeowner or the building owner is not getting the maximum use out of utilizing a company that's been around there for a very long time to take the lead on helping them decide what is really needed, and maybe deciding over phases what is top priority. Us as a company, we like giving out good, better, best, and many times as much as possible. But what we see is competitor A says you need 4 lintels replaced, and you need spot tuck pointing, and you need some caulking. Competitor B saying your lintels are fine, you need some sill work, but you also need 100% grind and point. And then the third contractor has something in between there. So you as the building owner are lost. What should you do at this point? In my mind, you pick a well-schooled, a very seasoned company, and you say, they're my lead. I might not necessarily be giving them the work, but I'm going to let them develop the scope, and then let all of my other 2 bidders or 3 bidders match exactly that scope. So now that the owner is going to get a comprehensive bid from each of these competitors. That's one idea. For very large building owners, the best investment is for you to hire a third-party architect or engineer that is familiar with masonry restoration, and let them develop the scope and budget for you. And then they go out and they solicit contractors like North Shore and other quality contractors. And then we all are bidding off of that exact same scope. So there's no chance that you're not going to get the work done that you need it to get done. Lastly, guys, just for that simple thing for an owner to think about, but in today's, right now, this market, to send a crew of 3 out to your property, your brick building, and do 1 day of maintenance repairs as many repairs as possible in about an 8-hour day is about $3,000. So they should have that in their mind that, hey, if I'm walking around and they have some little bit of construction knowledge and they're guesstimating of what they have, figure if they think 3 men in one day could do the work, they're about $3,000. A full week, you're at $15,000.
That's huge. That's great. That's a great nugget.
Yeah.
We haven't said nugget on here in a while, and I just said it.
I got it.
Way to bring it back.
North Shore earns the nugget.
I like it. All right. Les, as always, this is fantastic information that I feel like is just not out there. I'm almost embarrassed it took Mark and I this long to get it out there to everyone. So appreciate you coming on, Mark. Do we have someone we're playing for the Chicago Fact?
Yeah, today, Claire Rescore, who bought a t-shirt. We're playing for her, and it's sponsored by North Shore Brickwork. So let's hear it, Tom.
All right, it's summertime, so I got a summertime question for you. How many docks/slips and moorings are there in the Belmont Harbor? So basically, how many docks and slips do we have in the Belmont Harbor for all our boating fans out there? Is it 100, 200, 400, or 800?
My guess is 400.
We got a 400. Mark, what are you going with?
I would go with 200.
Man, Les, you provide a ton of information. You guys have not gotten this question. You're 0 for 2. It's 800.
Oh, really? I thought that was just 10.
Yeah, I did too.
I think the wind out of the sails on this wonderful episode.
Man, 0 for 2. All right, Claire. Listen, I did it for, I think it was Brenda last week, but we're going to send you a $50 gift card brought to you by North Shore Brickwork because you should have to pay for our lack of being able to answer this. So
for Tom being a jerk and getting these two tough.
Yeah. So, all right. Awesome, man. Les, awesome having you on here. You gave so much awesome information. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, check out our website for MBOA. So we put on straightupchicagoinvestor.com a breakdown of the 9 or 10 affiliates that MBOA has in the different parts of the city. So check it out. We put it all in one place with links to it and the people you got to contact if you want to get involved. So Les, thank you. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, we will see you Thursday.
Thanks all.
Thank you.